Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupini Avatara-varisthaya Ramakrishna-aya Tinam Sudismati-purananam Alayam Purunalayam Namami Bhagavad-padam Shankaram Loka-Shankaram. So this Prabhagara Mimamsakas arguments are presented here. Yadavi kechidahu pravritti nivritti vidhi tatshesha vitirekena kevara vastuadi vedabhago nasti. And Siddhartha says, iti tat na aupanishadasya purushasya ananya sheshatvad. So, Brahman expounded in the Upanishads. It is not a shesha, it is not an anga of any kriya. Yoso Upanishadsu adhigata purushaha. Yoso purushaha Upanishadsu adhigata. I mean this the Brahman which we understand, which we know about from Upanishads, Asamsari Brahma, and it's mentioned here already, Shin Utpadyadi Chaturvida Drevya Vilakshanaha. Supragaranastaha Ananyasesha. So already mentioned here, this either pravritti or nivritti, or it should be a siddha vastu kathanam, but as a sadhanam for a kriya. That's what we are going to discuss very soon now. So there is no specific meaning apart from either pravritti, nivritti, or if is neither pravritti nor nivritti, it is an anga by stutyarthavada, nindarthavada, or some kind of an instrument, a sadhanam, a means for kriya, which is a part of the kriya process in the form of either upasana or dhyanam or whatever it is. Apart from this, there is no Veda bhaga, there is nothing else in the Veda. Na aso nasti na adhigamyati iti va shakyam vadidam. So no one can say that nothing else exists. Saesha nidhi nityatma ityatma shabdat. So the point is, actually this Atman cannot be denied because it is not subjected to anything, and no one can say that such a thing doesn't exist or that it is not known. Na shakyam vadidum, na shakyam nadigamyate. I mean, it cannot but understand, it cannot escape our understanding, and it cannot be denied. An example is even Saesha nidhi nityatma, idi atma shabdat. Atmanischa pratyakadam ashakyatvat. So you cannot deny, you cannot reject Atman, because ya eva nirakarta taseva atmatva. The one who denies Atman, the one who rejects Atman, he himself is projecting himself and then say that he doesn't exist. So somebody say, well, I don't accept Atman. He is accepting Atman by saying, I don't accept, because the I is there. Now that is a subject of discussion next. Nanu Atma Akham Pratya Vishatvad Upanishadsu eva vijñāyati iti anubhavannam. So there is no upavatti, there is no logic in seeing that this Atma, which is Aham Spiranam, is Karta and Bhokta, Sukha of Sukha and Dukkha. This Atma it exists only in the Upanishads. Why? Because it is obviously known to everyone. Everyone knows I, Karta, Bhokta, I am enjoying and doing the aham spiranam, and I'm going through sukha and dukkha. That Atma is obviously known to everyone. It is not necessarily to be known from Upanishads alone. So the statement that this Atma is known only from the Upanishads. Aham pratyaya vishayatvat Upanishadsu eva vijñāyati iti. So any argument that this aham pratyaya, aham spiranam, that is Jivatma, that is known only from the Upanishads and not only from Shastras, that is not Upapannam, it's not logically proven, it's logically tenable. Why? Because everyone knows Aham Karta, Aham Bhokta, etc. I am Sukhi, Dukhi, everyone knows, it's so very well known, it's so obvious. Now, the Sakshitvena Pratyuktatva. Now, this Atman, when I say I, every person is with I. But when he uses the word I, it's only Sopadhika Atma, the Jivatma. Not Nirvadhika. The Nirvadhika Atma is the Sakshi behind it. It cannot be explained or described. Actually, it can be only known from the Upanishads, not because the Upanishads define it or describe it. All the Upanishads help us to remove all the wrong notions that stand in the way of our understanding that Nirvadhika Brahman. So, in a way, sometimes Vedas don't say anything about Brahman. Vedas cannot say anything about Brahman. But Vedas says everything that will help us to eventually realize what Brahman is. Even Paraksha Jnanam also happens only neti. It happens here. So that's what another Sakshitvena Pratyuktatvad. So now, it denied, there's a negation here. Now, the Sakshitvena Pratyuktatvad. So the real Nirvadhika Atma is the Sakshi of this Aham Pratyaya. So sometimes, this will lead to a lot of arguments, being controversially. A lot of Purvapaksha comes on the basis of this in other commentaries, Tasakshittvena Pratyuktatvat. Nahi Aham Pratyaya Vishaya Kartra Vidiregena Tasakshi Sarabhudastha Sama Ekaha Kudastha Nityaha Purishaga Vidikandi Tarkasameva Kenajit Adhigataha Sarvasyatma, etc. So that's Sakshitvena Pratyuktatvat. So the real Nirvadhika Atma is Sakshi. Sakshi means it is aware of it, but it is not it itself. It is not involved. So Bodhrutvam and Avadasinyatvam, that is Sakshitvam. Sakshi, a witness, is somebody who is aware of what is a witness of, what is as witnessed, at the same time is not it or not part of it, not involved in anything of which he is a witness. So this, and it cannot even be defined, but then it can only be conceptualized as Sakshi. So that Sakshitvena Pratyuktatvat. It is Sakshi behind. Nahi Aham Pratyaya Vishaya Kartra Vidiregena Tasakshi. Sarvabhudastha. So it mentions Sarvabhudastha, means it is present everywhere. And then Samaha. It means Jainas believe that the Atma varies from person to person depending upon his physical body, its size, shape, everything will depend upon every jiva. So it is Samaha that denied. In Ekaha, it is one. Sarvabhudastha also sometimes used to answer criticism from Bauddhas. For Bauddhas, Vijnanam is like a Sakshi only. Vijnanam is Sakshi. Or what do you call it? Vijnanavada Yogacharya. in the Pravritti Vijnana and Ale Vijnana. So you are aware of everything, but you are not involved in it. So that's the idea behind Smrti-Upasthana Sutram, Sati-Uttana Sutra. So this Smrti awareness is there, and you are established in it, but at the same time you are detached from it. So Sakshi. But at the same time, this Atma is Sarvabhutastha. So it is unlike the Vijnanam or the Atman equivalent of Buddhist. According to Vijnanavadi Yogacharas, it is Vijnanam. That is their Atman. It is also Sakshi. It is aware of everything. But it detaches itself from it. So that's the idea behind. All the Pravritti Vijnanas, all the impressions appear and then disappear on this platform of Ali Vijnana. It is Sakshi of everything. But it's not Sarvabhutastha. For Advaitins, Atman is Sakshi. It is, at the same time, it is Sarvabhutastha. It is witness. At the same time, it is Sarvabhutastha. Sama. Not like the Atman of Jainas. Eka. Ekameva Dvitiyam. Kudastha. It is Kudastha Nitya. And Purusha. Purusha means Purishedeti Purusha. It is existing within this Navadware Puri Dehi, this body-mind complex with the 9 doors, but at the same time it is apart from it. So if you are residing in a house, you cannot be the house. If you are staying in a place or in a room, you are not the room. Purishayati iti Purusha. So it exists within this Pura, now this body-mind complex. That's the Sagas, that Purusha Sukta has better than Advaitic interpretation, also Ramanajas use Advaitic interpretation also there. So, Purusha, Vidikandi Tarkasameva Kenajit Adhikadeha. So, it is not understood or perceived or realized either in the Karmaganda of Purvamimamsa or according to Yayikas or logically analyzed. It cannot be logically analyzed. It can be understood from Purvakanda. Sarvasya Atma, it is the Atma of everyone. Ataha sana kenajit pratyakhyadum shakya. So it is kenajit pratyakhyadum na shakya. Means it cannot be rejected because you can't reject yourself. I cannot reject myself because it is Sarvasya Atma. It's called Atmana Atma in some places you find. It's one soul Atma. So Atma here means Yachapnodi Yadadate Yachivadi. Like that, it is our true identity. Sarvasya Atma. Ataha sa na kenachit pratyakhyadum shakya. Vidisesham tumva netam. It cannot be interpreted as Vidisesha. Vidhi always a kriya, it is always karma. And this Atma is a sadhana for it. And it's part of many upasanas associated with the dhyanam upasana, etc. This Atma is realized. So Atma here, according to Purvamimamsa, it is Atma is karta in that sense. But according to Vedanta, of course we know. Atmatva deva cha sarvesham na kheya anuvadeya. So, because it is our own true nature, it is the Atma of everyone and the Atma of everything. It is our own true nature. We cannot reject ourselves. We cannot give up ourselves. That's why Atmatva Deva. Sarvesham Atmatva Deva. Naheyaha na anuvadeya. It cannot be rejected and it is not something to be obtained. It is our own true nature, so it cannot be denied or rejected. It is our true nature, so there is nothing to be added to it. So it is not upadeya, it is not heya. Sarvam hi vinasyat vikarajatam purushantam vinasyati. So everything that gets destroyed through vikara, samskara, or utpaditva and so on, all this only up to Purusha. Because when you come to Purusha, then it is beyond the Utpadya, Samskarya, Vikarya, etc. Everything else may undergo all this destruction or Vikara, Samskara, etc. Up to Purusha. Purushamdam Vinashiti. Purusho Vinasa Ketu Abhavat Avinashi. Purusha, here Purusha means the Chaitanyam, the Sakshi, the Purisheti, the Purusha in that sense, Atman. Purushaga Vinasha Ketu Abhava Avinashi. This Avinashi is obvious. Vikriya Hetu Abhavacha Kudastha Nitya. It is good. So it's again Sankhyas have got Parinami Nitya and Kudastha Nitya. So the terms are used in those contexts because there is a long discussion with Sankhya philosophers, maybe from 5th Adhikaranam onwards you find. So you said the Adhikaranam, there is a long discussion with Sankhya. Pradhana, I mean the Pradhana of Sankhya is not Atman. So Pradhana Prakriti is Jada. So the evolution cannot take place, creation cannot take place from Pradhanam or Prakriti like that. So that's why it is mentioned here. Vikriya Hetu Kudastha Nitya. It is not Parinami Nitya, it is Kudastha Nitya. Ataeva Nitya Suddha Buddha Mukta Svabhavaha. So already explained earlier. Nityatvam, Suddhatvam, etc. All the other schools of philosophers, in the Dhyasa Bhashyam that's we mentioned. There are some philosophers who accept the Brahman, the Atman as Shuddha but not Nitya. There are those who accept it is Nitya but not Shuddha. There are those who accept maybe Shuddha but it is not Buddha. Like that, there are different. But Advaitins alone argue that Atman is Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, Svabhava, etc. Tasman Purushanna Param Kinchit Sa Kashtha Sa Paragati. There was nothing beyond that transcends Purusha. Tam Aupanishadam Purusham Puchami. Idicha Aupanishadasya or Aupanishadam Visheshanam. That means both versions are the part of Veda. So this is the Visheshanam, that is Aupanishadam Purusham Puchami. Purushasya Upanishatsu Pradhanyena Prakashyamanatve Upapaddhiti Ataha Buddhavastu Balo Vedabhago Nastiri Vajanam Sahasa. That's the conclusion here. Therefore, the point is, this Chaitanya, this Purusha, which is known from the Upanishads, which we know about from the Upanishads, this Visheshana becomes Upapanna in the context of Purusha mentioned in the Upanishads. Therefore, the argument that Veda Bhaga or the part of the Vedas that talk about Siddha Vastu, Buddha Vastu. So Buddha Vastu should be understood. Here, Buddha, Siddha, Nitya all means something that already exists, that always existed, that will always exist. That's the meaning in which the word Buddha Vastu or Nitya Vastu or Siddha, Nitya, Siddha, Bhukta, etc. are all used by Vedantins. The same word can be used, as Siddha Vastu can be used by Purvapakshins to imply something that already exists. Not necessarily that, not something that is always existing, that's only Brahman. But anything which is Pratyaksha Siddham, which is not necessarily to be attained through Kriya, Yajna, Yaga, through Apurva. Apart from that, all other things can be called or implied by the word Siddha Vastu or Pratyaksha Siddha Vastu by Mimamsakas and Vrittikara. But for Vedantins, Bhutavastu or Siddhavastu always means Brahman or Atman. Something which already exists, which already existed, which always exists, because it is like Ajam Nityam without Shasvadoyam Purana, etc. That's the idea. So Yadabi Shastra Tatparya Vidam Anukramanam Dishtohi Tasyarthaha Karmavabodhanam Itayamadi. So Tasyartha means Shastrasya. Artha means Veda is meaning here. So this is again the view of Prabhakaras. So the only purpose of Prayojanam of Veda or Shastra is to create this awareness of Kriyas. That is Shastra Tatparividam Anukramanam Drishta Hi Tasya Artha Karta Bodhanam. This is the argument of in this context Prabhakaras and others Ityavadi. Tad dharma jijnasa vishetva vidhi pradisheda shastra viprayam dashtavi. Now the point is, this is okay, this is perfectly acceptable with regard to karma kanda, and that karma kanda includes vidhi and pradisheda shastra. So the idea that the fundamental subject of Shastra or Veda is karma bodhanam. Karma here means dharma. Dharma here means karma only, means kriya, yaga, etc. To make you understand how to perform yajnas and yagas, and what are the yajnas and yagas to be performed. To inform you, that's the only purpose of bodhanam, of Veda or Shastra. This view is okay only with regard to that part of the Vedas which is known as Karma Kanda, which includes only Vidhi and Pradishedha. Vidhi Pradishedha also includes Utsarga Vidhi, the Apavada Vidhi, all these things are the Samanya Vidhi, Utsarga Vidhi. Universal ethical moral instructions, this so all these Mahimsya Sarva Bhudani, all Kalanjanna Bhakshayit, Suramna Pibed, all these are sometimes called Pratisheda Vidhi, but it's also called Utsarga Vidhi. But there are certain Utsarga Vidhis which can be overtaken, which can be overtaken, made null and void with the help of some of the vidhis called Apavada. So already we saw that. Certain Samanya vidhis can be modified by accommodating certain Parihara karmas. The, Sweda, Mala, Veda, etc. All these we mentioned yesterday. Kshepishta Devada, Vayu. So you have to make a sacrifice of a white goat or those. So their himsa is allowed only for that particular purpose. So sometimes this Apavada Vidhi also is used to modify the effect of Utsarga Vidhi. So that's why the dharma jijnasa vishetva vidhi pradisheda shastra viprayam drishtavi. So we should understand perfectly well that the definition or the proclamation that drishtohi tasyarthaha karma bodhanam, it is applicable only for karma kanda, which includes only vidhi and nisheda, nothing else. Advaita Ashrama kriya tattva anarthaki madarthanam idi edad ekandena abhibhagachadam Bhudopadeshanarthaki prasanga. What happens, So Bhudopadesha means Siddha Vastu. I mean Upadeshas are instructions regarding Siddha Vastu. Now when Vedantis talk like that, they are implying Vedanta Vakyas talking about Brahman or Atman. That's an important point to remember. In fact, when Mimamsas attack Vedantins, saying that these Siddha Vastus need not necessarily be revealed in Vedas. They are not talking about Brahman as we understand, especially Bhattas. So to remember, Atman or Brahman as Sarvavyapi, Sarvantaratma, Kodastha Nitya, Ajo Nitya Shashado Yambiran, all these were irrelevant or even unknown or totally irrelevant, that's again, so far as Mimamsas are concerned, because this clear-cut description and exposition of Brahman or Atman as the absolute reality mentioned in the Upanishad portion of Vedas, that became a view, a well-established view only with Shankara and after Shankara. You have to remember, Shankara is here confronting people who formed their views at least some 6 or 7 centuries, or even much more than 1000 years before Shankara. Jaimini lived much earlier than Kumarila. Kumarila himself belongs to, according to some historians, 3rd or 4th century AD, and according to some others, belong maybe 250 years before Shankara. Prabhakara also was an earlier figure. So you have to remember, Shankara is talking about the views of Mimamsakas who wrote their books long before the philosophy of Advaita was well established and known in India. So this is an important point. So the idea that Bodhavastu, Siddhavastu means Brahman or Atman, that was not a matter of consideration at all for the Mimamsakas. Because they were using they're using their vocabulary. That's an important point to remember. So the Atman is Pratyaksha Siddham, Nitya Siddham, all these terms were totally irrelevant, even unknown to Mimamsakas. That's why when Mimamsakas use the word Siddhavastu, etc., they're talking about things which are already visible for everyone. For example, when they say, why should the Vedas tell you about things that everyone knows? For example, here in there is an argument. Nanu atmaham pratyavishatvad upanishatsu eva vijnayati iti upavanna. These arguments are put in the mouth of Mimamsakas, based on their own arguments and their own philosophical views, by Shankara, to refute their views. But the view is much older than Shankara. The idea that, for example, there is no Atman other than the Karta, the Bhokta. That's the view of the Mimamsakas. So that Atman, Aham, the Aham spirit of I, that is so obvious, everyone. So why should you need the Upanishad to tell you about this Atman? That's a question they're asking. Perfectly logical question. But then in 8th century, Shankaracharya says, no, that's true. But the Atman that we are talking about, not the Atman that you are talking about. Your Atman is Karta Bhokta. And that Atman, so far as we are concerned, is only Jivatma. What is Jivatma? Jivatma is nothing but the Nirubadhika Atma manifesting in the Sobadhika Atma, that is embodiment complex. That's what it is. It is reflecting the Antakarana, it's called Bhasa. That is the Atma you are talking about. But the Atma that we are talking about, the Atma behind that Atman, Sakshi of that Atman. What is Sakshi of the Atman? That is Nirubadhika. And that Nirubadhika Atman cannot be understood from many sources other than Upanishads. Upanishads only talk about it. So that should be understood, and this timeline should be kept in mind. Sometimes people study these things thinking that they're all sitting together and arguing each other. No. Jaimini lived 1000 years, maybe 12th century before Shankara. Jaimini also saw Jaimini, and then Sabera wrote Bhashyam about 200 years after Jaimini. And Kumarila came much later, still long before Shankara, and also Prabhakara. So according to these Mimamsakas, the idea of this Kodastha Nitya, this Purishedi Purusha, Sarvavyapi, Neti Nityatma, these concept did not exist for them. For them, Atma means the Karta. Karta, Bhokta, that is their Atman. And so Bhashyakara says, that's true, but that Atman is Aham Spiranam, Aham Karta. That is Jivatma. The Atma that we are talking about, the Nirvadhika Atman, is the Sakshi of that Sobadhika Atma. So that is the point we kept in mind. This idea behind. So, okay. So, Amnayasya Kriyarthatva Anarthakyam Matadarthanam iti edat ekantena abhibhagicchatam bhudavastu bodhishanarthakya prasangaka. For them, any Vedic statement that is talking about a bhudavastu is absolutely without any significance. It has got anarthakam. It is a meaninglessness, or its meaningless. Their bhudavastu is siddhavastu. In fact, from the Mimamsa's point of view, who are totally ignorant of Shankara's Advaita, it is perfectly justified. Why should you refer to the Vedas to know here is a tree standing in front of you, siddhavastu for them, pratyaksha siddha. But for Advaitins, their siddhavastu, bhudavastu is the Atman, that is transcendental reality. To know that, you have to listen to Upanishads. That's what Bhashyakara says. So, pravritti, nivritti, tachesha vitirekena bhudam ched vastu vadishyati bhavyarthatvena kudastha nityam bhudam na vadishyati iti ko hetuhu. What is the point of your saying like this? Why? Because even within the Vedas, pravritti, nivritti, vidhi tachesha vidirekena, they also use certain terms. Bhudam chet vastu vadishyati. Of course, bhavyarthathena. There are many statements there. But they consider these as statements for arthabhuti, vakyabhuti or arthavada. So they use there are many things in the Vedas which obviously do not include pravritti, nivritti, or a statement of certain things which is vidishesha. There are many things. So it's already there. Vastu vadishyati. Bhavyarthathena. It is something for arthabhuti, karyabhuti. In that case, kudastha nityam bhudam na vadishyati iti ko hetu. Then why should we say? There are also statements in the Vedanta Vakyas Upanishads which talk about siddhavastu, kudastha nityam, atman brahman, aham brahmasmi, tattvamasi. There are many statements in the Upanishads which talk about the universal reality. It's everywhere you find. In the Brihadaranyaka you find a long discussion between Gargi and Yajnavalkya. There are many long discussions. Many things are mentioned here which we don't have time to deal with elaborately. So the Vedic literature includes many statements about Kudastha Nityam, Bhudam, Siddhavastu, etc. So they don't have a meaning, they have no place. Why should you say that? What's the reason? What's the logic behind? Ko hetu. Nahi bhudam upadishyamanam kriya bhavati. Not only that, a siddhavastu which is expounded, referred to, it doesn't become a kriya. Because they make it a kriya by, they put it as part of a tail of some kriya vidhi vakya. So that they want to convert that into some kind of a kriya vakya. But Bhashyakara says, no, bhudavastu budhisyamanam kriya na bhavati. A Vedantic statement which doesn't include any kriya vidhi, which also but refers to something bhudavastu, some kind of a universal transcendental reality. that doesn't become a kriya. Akriyatve api bhudasya kriya sadhanatvat kriyartha eva bhudopadesha iti chet naisha doshaka. Now another point is that suppose there is no kriya, still if it becomes a kriya sadhana, then you would say that it is meant for kriya. That argument is not acceptable. So that's why akriyatve. There is no kriya. There is no kriya. Kriyatve api bhudasya kriya sadhanatvat. Suppose there is a statement about a bhuda vastu, siddha vastu, about Atma, Brahman, etc. And it doesn't include any vidhivakya, pravritti or nivritti. So there is no kriya. So it is akriyatvam. In that context, it becomes kriya sadhana. Bhudasya kriya sadhanatvat. So that is interpreted as a kriya sadhana. So kriyartha eva bhudopadesha iti chet. So in that case, it is for kriya only, to make the kriya more complete, this bhudavastu upadesha. So that's the argument. That seems clear. Suppose there is a mention of some siddha vastu, bhuda vastu, something that doesn't include a reference to vidhiya pradishedha or anything mentioned as a shesha or anga of a kriya. Any discussion of Atman, Brahman, all these are examples for bhuda vastu kathanam. So that is expounded in Vedic literature. And there is no kriya in that. So there is a kriyatvam, there is no kriya. In that case, that becomes a kriya sadhana. That's why, earlier we saw anything can be somehow linked as a tail to a kriya vidhi. Either nindarthavada, sutyarthavada, or sometimes anga, angi bhava, or seshi, sesha bhava, sesha, seshi bhava. Many ways they try to put it together. Kriyartheva bhudopadesha iti chet naishadosha kriyarthatevi kriya nivartana shaktimat vastu upadishtameva kriyarthatvam tu prayojanam tasya chedavada vastu vastu anuvishtam bhavati yadi namopadishtam kim tavatena syaditi. So I shall try to explain this one after another. Suppose a statement is made, it is a kriya upakarana. So the siddha vastu upadesha is meant for kriya upakarana. If you argue like that, that cannot be accepted. If it is meant for kriya, still, if a bhuda vastu kathanam is meant for kriya, even then, that statement of bhuda vastu kathanam helps you to complete a kriya vakya. In that case, it becomes a properly accepted kriya statement, and it helps you in kriya. That is the prayojanam. But for this reason only, the siddha vastu doesn't go outside the realm of kriyopadesha. Suppose you believe that it's already upadishtam, nirdishtam. Still, what's the use of benefit of is? That question may ask. In that case, this is the line of argument I'm putting, I will explain further. In that case, there is one benefit, the prayojanam. What is the benefit? That benefit will help you, that vastu kathanam will help you to understand the true nature of reality, and you will get rid of your wrong notion about samsara. That is the prayojanam. Like this, just as a statement which is meant for kriya helps you, similarly a statement about Atman also will have its own, what they call suprayojana, saprayojanata. The word means it's prayojanam, it will benefit. This is the line of argument. That is, just as a statement, injunction for kriya, and another statement which doesn't include kriya, bodhavastu kathanam, And that Bhutavastu Kathanam will help you to complete the meaning of the Kriya Vidhi. So it is helping you, it has got a benefit, prayojanam. Similarly, the Bhutavastu Kathanam, which doesn't have a Kriya in it, also has its benefit. What's the benefit? It helps us to understand the nature of samsara, and that will help us to put an end to dukkha and all the bondage. This is the line of argument. Now we'll come to the text proper. Now, akriyatve api bhudasya kriya sadhanatvat. So even if a bhudavastu kathanam, that means a statement, Vedanta Vakya, which does not include a kriya implication, still it is a kriyartha. It is meant for helping the kriya vidhi vakya. Kriyartha means it becomes sadhana. There are many statements, as we already saw some examples. There are many statements in the Vedanta Vakyas, Vedic literature, but do not include a kriya. This akriyatvam in it. But still, it includes something, some kind of a sadhana, and that can be used to augment the meaning or relevance of the kriya vidhis. That's why kriyarthatvam of bhutavastu kathanam means a statement, Vedantic statement, which is interpreted as something that helps in the kriya vakya. So as a kriya sadhana, this idea behind. Bhudev Siddhi Naishadoshka, there is no problem in it. Kriyarthatvepi Kriya Nivartana Shaktimat Vastu Upadishtameva. So many of these Bhudavastu Kathanam is a word I cannot actually translate that in English with full justice, the original language. Bhudavastu Kathanam means a statement in the Vedas, in the Vedantas, especially the Upanishads, about something which do not include a kriya or injection, but it's a statement about a universal truth. Aham Brahmasmi Tattwamasi. There are many Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. All these are examples of these Vedanta Vakyas. That's the idea behind. Now, many of these Vedanta Vakyas can be interpreted in some ways as helping Kriya Vakyas to make the meaning complete. That is true. That's Bhavyarthatvena mentioned earlier. Bhavyartha means, to make the meaning more complete. So then Shadosha Kriyarthatve be Kriya Nivartana Shaktivat Vastu Vadishtameva. Kriya Nivartana Shakti means what? Either it could mean to complete a Kriya and or eventually take you beyond Kriya. Both meanings are there. To complete the Kriya. There are many Vedanta statements which are used for Upasana, with the chant and do Upasana and Dhyanam even while performing Yajnas and Yagas. Even, say for example, Antai Bahuvadinam Anandai Muhum. You can come to Yajurveda and Atharvaveda. It's sometimes used as a mantra while doing Dhyanam, actually, after some Vedic celebrations. Actually, Antai Bahuvadinam Anandai Mukham means that the language of the infinite is silence, the language of the finite is verbosity. It's an English translation. May not do full justice. The language of the infinite, the absolute reality is silence because it's beyond words. Vagama Vojarattu. Now, the rest of the statements are used while doing Dhyanam or Upasana as part of certain puja, certain rituals and all that. It's a philosophical, it's a Vedantic language, but it is used as Kriya Sadhana in certain Vedic rituals, etc. So that's why Bhudasya Kriya Sadhanatva Kriyarthaiva Bhuda Upadesha iti Chetna Daisha Dosaka Kriyarthatve abhi Kriya Nivartana Shaktimat Vastu Upadishtameva. It helps you to complete a Kriya or eventually take you beyond Kriya. That Kriya Nivartanatva means going beyond Kriya. Kriyarthatvam, something that helps Kriya, to prayojanam tasya. Well, it certainly helps you. It helps you in Kriya, performing Kriya. Kriyarthatvam tu prayojanam tasya nacha yadavada vastu anubadishtam bhavati. It helps you in performing Kriya. But then you cannot say it is not expounded in the Vedic literature because it doesn't include Kriya in itself, so it has got anarthakyam. So again you have to remember the old statement. Anyway, the Vedic statement, it doesn't include a Kriya injunction, is nirarthaka, it has got anarthakyam, it has got no meaning. This is the view universally accepted by Prabhakaras and also Bhattas. But they will tell you, well, this statement will help you. It's a part, it's a sadhanam, maybe a mantra to be uttered by performing certain yajnas and yagas. So in that sense, it has got kriyarthatvam. It is meant for kriya, or it may be kriya sadhanam. It is part of, it is an ingredient, an element in the kriya process. They will say, well, it is not mentioned because it has no value, because in itself it doesn't have meaning. Now this argument will be further enriched by direct quotations from Kumarila Bhatta. We'll come to that later. According to Bhatta school, which is very profound, that is a statement, a pada in a vakya should be interpreted in a way in harmony with the overall meaning of vakya. So, if you take one statement, Bhodavastu Kadhanam, Satyam Jnanam Anandam, etc., all these take from Upanishads, and then you say, like Puravimamsas will say, it has no meaning, because by itself it doesn't include a kriya. So the point is, certain parts of a vakya cannot be taken independently and project your own meaning on it. Every pada and padartha should be in perfect harmony with the overall meaning. That means vakyartha. Pada is part of vakya. So vakyartha is the logical summary, overall essence of all the padas and padarthas in a sentence. But sometimes in the interpretation they would say a siddhavastu kadhanam. They will take and they will say that, well, in itself it's meaningless because it doesn't contain a kriya. So they take pada and padartha without taking their connection to vakya and vakyartha. That's why this Mayavati Bhatta has got this statement, siddhavastu, this is saksha yadyavi kurvanti padartha patipadanam varnas tatha cha naidasmin paryavasanti nishphale vakyartha videyi desham pravutto nandariyagam page jaleva kashthanam padartha patipadanam. So sakshat yadyavi kurvanti padartha patipadanam. So vakyartha bodha. For vakyartha bodha, what you should do? Padarthas. Padartha means padanamartha is padartha. Padartha should be put together in a harmonious way. But there is not absolute rule that all of them should indicate a kriya. That is an important point. Now, they need not necessarily constitute a kriya. Those words should have put together in a sentence, a vakya, should have a harmonious meaning. But there is no absolute necessity that it should constitute a kriya, but it should constitute a harmonious meaning. This is a sloka vartika, he says. Sakshat yadyapi kurvanti padartha pratipadanam varnas tatha cha taidasmin paryavasyanti nishphale. So vakyartha vidayetesham pravutto nandariyagam pake jaleva kashthanam padartha pratipadanam. There is no absolute rule that vakyartha vidayetesham pravutto nandariyagam means there is not absolute necessity. It is not necessarily a rule that all the padarthas should together form a vakya, we should have a kriya as its essential meaning. No, that is Sloga Vartika tells you that. So if you take it this way, the Siddha Bhutavastu Kadhanam Upanishad Vakyas, they do have a meaning and significance, even if they do not contain an injunction or kriya. But normally, Bhattas, generally as a school of philosophy, they don't take that into consideration. They will say any statement in the Vedas which do not directly include an injunction vidya pradishedha or within pradishedha sheshatvam, it has no meaning, it has got anarthakyam. So, the Sloka Vartika itself indirectly goes against this view of Prabhagaras and Bhattas. So, yadi namopadishtam kim tavatena syadidi. So, there is another question. Well, what is the kim nama? Upadishtam kim tava tena syadidi? So what is the benefit? Suppose already Upadishtam is already, the Siddhavastu is already part of the Vedas. There is already Nirdishtam, Upadishtam. Still the question arises, kim tava tena syad? Tena tavas kim syad? In what way are you going to be benefited? Kim tava prayojanam? Such a question arises. Suppose you argue all the Vedanta statements, Upanishad statements are already accepted as Nirdishtam, Upadishtam in Vedas. If you go by Bhatta's own understanding of Vakya Padapadartha concept now, then what's the use of it? Why the question? Because they don't indicate any kriya. And without kriya, you cannot perform a yajna or yaga. Without yajna and yaga, there cannot be apurva, punya. And without punya, there cannot be purushartha siddhi. So what is the use of it? It doesn't help you in any way attaining a purushartha. Even if we admit that these Vedanta statements are authentic parts of Vedic literature. So the answer is given, Uchyadi. Anavagata atmavastu padeshascha tathaiva bhavitum arhati. Tat avagatya mithya jnanasya samsara hetuko nivritti prayojanam kriyadhi. Idi avishishtam arthavatvam kriya sadhana vastu padeshina. So that the idea is this. Certain things which are helpful for kriya, they are already there in the Vedanta Vakyas. And you admitted that, and they have some use. Similarly, Vedanta statements which do not include kriya also have a benefit. What is the benefit? It helps us to get nivritti, samsara hetoho nivritti. It helps us to get nivritti, liberation, cessation of samsara hetu. Samsara hetu is avidya, jnanam, whatever it is called. That's samsara hetu. That's the idea behind. So when atmavastu, atma jnanam is acquired, when you obtain atma jnanam, then our wrong notion about samsara, that will go away, and that's the prayojanam. That is, that in other words, this certain siddha vastu kathanam is helpful as kriya sadhanam, as essential means to help in the kriya. Similarly, the same helpful, the same benefit, same prayojanam will also be from understanding Atmavastu. That's why this is, samsara hetu nivritti prayojanam kriyati iti avishishtam arthavatvam. The arthavatvam that you yourself get by performing yajnas and yagas. That is kriya, apurvam, madhushtam, punyam, then surga prapti, all these are the benefit prayojanam for you. Similarly, we have a prayojan. What's a prayojanam? Prayojanam means mithya jnanasya samsara hetuha nivrutti. What is the samsara hetu? Hetu for samsara, this samsara means this birth, death, rebirth, and then discontinuation of the cycle, the wheel of samsara. The hetu is mithya jnana. The mithya jnana will be destroyed, samsara hetu will be destroyed, and when that is destroyed, we get atma jnanam, atmanabhuti. That's the idea behind. So just like you have got kriya sadhana vastu padeshena arthavattum, you have got benefit prayojanam by interpreting certain Vedanta vakyas as kriya sadhana vastu padesha. I mean, kriya sadhana means things which are helping you in performing yajnas and yagas. Sadhana means essential needs, means instruments that help you. So many of the Vedanta statements is part of kriya process. Many of the yajnas and yagas include mantras which are from the Upanishadic portions. But they are used not in the Advaitic sense, they are not understood or interpreted in the Advaitic sense. They are interested only as part of an upasana. So you already saw that earlier, this Adityo Brahmatyuvasida, etc. Atma Brahmatyuvasida, Jivo Brahmatyuvasida, etc. Jivo Brahmatyuvasida. All these, so these kind of upasanas. These upasanas are also called vidyas in Advaitic language. They are helpful in attaining Chitta Siddhi according to Advaita. They are helpful in samskarana prakriya, at the time of performing yajnas and yagas. They are also helpful for them. So used in different ways. So Mimamsas also get the benefit of Vedanta vakyas in a different way. They call them as upasana vakyas. That's aham brahmeti upasida, etc. But Advaitins, it is the highest statement of absolute reality, truth, that's all. That is Jiva Brahmayanatva. So, iti avishishtam arthavattam kriya sadhana vastu padeshena. This idea behind. So, this is the argument here, that is, Purvapakshins will tell you that this Atma, this Vastugathanam, Atma Vastugathanam is helpful. Siddhanta says it's helpful, for us also it's helpful in a different way, as statement of the highest truth. Okay, then another one. Apicha brahmano na handavyaha. Iteva madhya nivritti upadishyate. Apicha brahmano na handavyaha. Iteva madhya nivritti upadishyate. So, brahmana should not be killed like that. I shall explain this in general. We will go to state the Bhashyam. Now, it's a Nishedha Vakya. According to Siddhantins, Kalanjana Bhakshi, Sri Ramakrishna Pibed, Brahmano Nahanya, etc. Nahandavya, whatever it is. The Vyapratya link all can be used. So, according to Mimamsaras, this is part of the Shastra. It's a nivritti, nishedha vritti, pradisiddha. Now Vedantas will tell you that, well, it is not a nishedha vakyam, it is nishedha vakyam, but there is no kriya. Because not killing Brahmana is not a kriya, or not eating kalanjam in this onion water is not a kriya. The nuns, their particle, it only destroys the tendency in your mind to eat that. I don't want to use this context of Brahmana Nahandavya, it's used here. So, a natural tendency of a person to do violence, that tendency is destroyed because the nuns, it only used with the kriya, it destroys the tendency of that person to do that which is denied by nuns. It doesn't involve any kriya. That's what Siddhantin says. But Purvakshi says, trying not to kill Brahmana is a kriya. Siddhantin says, the Vakyam is only creates a temperament of not killing, of not doing something. So there is no kriya. So that is the context here. I mean, to make you familiar with this argument I am reading. Now you can go to the text. Apita brahmano na handavyaha ityeva madhya nivrittihi budishyati. So Siddhanti will say, nacha sa kriya, napi kriya sadhana. It's not a kriya. Not doing something is not a kriya. When nuns is included there, that indicates the destruction of a tendency to do that. And after the tendency is destroyed, then it gets self-dissolved. It doesn't remain there as a tendency to do something. See, Sargakamo Echida, you read it. Immediately you go about collecting in different ingredients, invitation to Rutik, Shkota, other you Udgada, and then get permission of the king in ancient times. When you perform Vedic yajnas, you have to get permission of the local Raja. So you get busy making all preparations. Because it certainly includes a kriya, as Prabhagara insists. But Brahmanona Handavya is not a kriya. Na is a nuns. So nuns always indicates destruction of a tendency to do something to that kriya with which nuns is added. So, nacha sa kriya, na api kriya sadhanam. So, akriyarthanam upadesho anarthakaschet brahmano na handavitya nivritti upadeshanam anarthakim praptam. So, that's a heartbreak for Mimamsakas. For them, vidhi and nishedha vakyas are equally important. For them, this is nishedha vakya. So, Advaitin say, and how does a vidhi vakya, whether nishedha vidhi or kriya vidhi, how does it become relevant? It should include a kriya. And here there is no kriya included. Rather, the tendency to do the kriya is destroyed. The buddhi is destroyed when you add nuns along with the kriya. So Siddhantin say, that is amna yesya kriyarthatva anarthakim adarthana. If you apply here, all these nishedha vakyas which you are talking about as constituting your athado dharma jignasa karma kanda, all will collapse because there is so much of nishedha vakyas which strictly do not deserve to be included in the karma kanda because they do not include an incentive, a prompting for kriya. That's the idea behind. So that's why akriyartha. So napi kriya sadhanam akriyarthanam upadeshaka anarthakaschet. If Vedic statements do not have a kriya tattvam, we don't include a kriya as a main imperative, they have anarthakyam. Then the brahmanona handavya ityadi nivritti upadeshanam anarthakyam praptam. They also will become they will also have anarthakyam, they will become meaningless. Tachanishtam. That tachanishtam, that is of course that's not the purpose, that's not the intended purpose. Nacha swabhava prapta handyarthaniragena nanjaha sakyam aprapta kriyarthatam kalpayidam. So what the nuns pratyaya does is, there is sagaja vasana. What is sagaja vasana? Subhava prapta handya anuraga. Person who has a violent tendency, that is sagaja vasana. Along that, the nishedhartha article nuns is added. Then what happens is, the tendency to do the violent act is removed, and the result is not doing the kriya. So there is no kriya involved here. So this nahantavyaha, that is only a kriya in a sankalpika, because it is not real kriya. That's the interpretation. Ityadi nivrutti upadeshanarthikim tachanishtam nacha subhava prapta handyathan ragena nanjak shakyam aprapta kriyarthatvam kalpayitam hayana kriya nivruttya udasinya vitiregena nanjascha esha subhavu yat susabandhino abhavam bodhayati. So that is hayana kriya nivrutti. I mean, when the nanj is included, is added to the kriya, then the kriya nivritti is what is happening, and the result is audasinyam. I mean, the tendency to the kriya is gone, it is reduced or removed. Apart from that, there is no other function for nanj. Nanjasesha subhavaha. Yes, susabandhina bhava bodhayati. So actually, nanj only does the absence of the kriya. That's what it does. So sabandhina, with what it is added, is abhava, is absence. Is added to a kriya, and the absence of the kriya is revealed by nanj. Nahandavya means there is no harana kriya happening. So the absence of harana kriya is implied by nanj. Abhava buddhischa audasinya karanam. So sacha degdha indana nivat swayameva upashamiti. So what happens is, when the nanj is added to the kriya, then the absence of the kriya is revealed. And the result is abhava bodha, means abhava of the kriya. And then nanj doesn't do anything. It gets dissolved because of audasinya. Nothing, there is no other duty for it. This should be understood by contrasting a similar equivalent with regard to vidhi vakya. In a vidhi vakya, as I mentioned earlier, when you are asked to do something, they say in the old Swarga Kamo Vejeda, that is the most universally well-known example, so I have to repeat that again. Normally in Vyakarana and also in Mimamsa, everywhere, Vedanta, the old rope and old snake. The snake never dies and the rope never breaks. Like that, like that old examples continue. So, in Swargakamo Yajeda, immediately after reading this, it prompts you to do something. You become dynamic, active. You start doing, moving things. But when this Brahmanona Handavya is in Nishiddhavakya, what happens, that none actually reveals the absence of the Kriya, and then that none gets dissolved because of audasinya and also abhava of Kriya. So the example is given, Degdha indhanagnivat soyameva. It's a fire where all the indhana, all the firewood is completely burned or become ashes. Then swayameva upashamiti. Then it gets dissolved in itself, gets self-dissolved. I mean, that fire gets extinguished. But there is nothing else to do. There is no kriya, no incentive. So the argument is, your own nishedhavakyas do not qualify for being considered as part of Vedas, because they also suffer from this problem of anarthakyam, irrelevance or meaninglessness. You say Vedanta Vakyas are anartha, they have got anarthakyam, but your own Nishedha Vakya, which according to you part of your vidhi, your shastram, they are also nirarthaka, they have anarthakyam, it's argument. Sabhavascha udasinya karanam sacha dagdena sacha dagdendana nivat. Agni, which is dagdena, Agni has got a lot of burned dagdha, indhana means firewood or whatever it is. Everything is burned. That Agni, swayameva upashamiti. Tasmat prasakta kriya nivritya udasinyameva brahmano na handavyaha ityadishu pradishedhartham manyamahe, etc. Similarly, so the argument is this. This audasinyam, that is the real meaning of this nuns. Mean Bhashyam, mean like fire get extinguished. Similarly, virama means that is the hanakriya virama means cessation of hanakriya or absence of it is indicated by these nuns. That's the idea behind. Now there is another example. That's why anyatra prajapati pradadibhya tasmad purushartha anupayogi ubakyanadi bhudarthavada vishayam anantakya vivdhanam drashtavyam. So the point is, therefore, you're talking about artharahityam or anarthakyam. That is relevant and that's a point only in the context of certain old stories, ubakyanadi, which include some Siddhavastu Kathanam. They don't have any relevance to Moksha Shastra or Upanishads. This is a conclusion. Anyatra prajapati vradadibhya. So that statement is a reference to certain practices in ancient India. Even now, brahmacharis, certain times, they should not na suryam udayada pasyet na astam gadam. It's a Sankhya Grihe Sutra. So there are certain statements there. A brahmachari studying time of Vedas, not everywhere, in certain context. These are all very different and variant. There's a lot of variations from one Dharma Shastra, one Smriti to another Dharma Shastra, another Smriti. So Sankhya Grihe Sutra says, na suryam udayada pasyet, na astam gadam. So you should not see a rising sun in the east in the morning, or a setting sun in the west in the evening. So in this context, of course, there is that doesn't apply that way. That's why anyatra prajapati padadibhya. So, in certain other context, maybe none just got certain other implications, not in this context. That's the idea behind. Then concludes tasmat purushartha anupayogi vakyanadi. That means certain anupayogi, meaningless or useless or irrelevant vakyanadi, means all old stories are there. Not necessarily Puranas, old stories, they may be there, which are not necessarily very helpful for purusharthas. Those things may be included, may be considered when you talk about anarthakyam, and it has no relevance or value in the context of Upanishads. That's the idea behind. So you are talking about anarthakyam. That's got a relevance only in certain purushartha anupayogi vakyanadi. Certain stories, vakyanas, which are not necessarily helpful for obtaining purushartha. In their context, perhaps anarthakyadi abhidhanam drashtavyam. The anarthakyam, they are of no much use or usefulness. That may be okay, but not in the context of Vedanta Vakyas. That's a conclusion. I think we have about 10 minutes. We can have some questions relevant to what I discussed. You are most welcome. Anybody else? I think let us see anyone else. No, you are a spokesman. That's okay. Then you can ask. Come.
How is this argument addressed by Mimamsa?
How they counted this?
How did they count?
That's the problem. Shankaracharya, after Shankaracharya wrote this, there is total silence. So you have to remember, after these bhashyas became popular, Pratigara Madam, Pratigara's books totally disappeared. Upavasha, Prattigara, and Karshangani. There are quite a few, even both time, all disappeared. But Kumarila Bhatta and Prabhagara system still survived. But their philosophical traditions did not survive for long, but their ritualism survived. There was not much philosophical debates post-Shankara time, during post-Shankara period. The philosophical debates took a different turn because after Shankara, immediately within a very short time, Bhamadi came into existence. So Bhamadi took a very strong dialectical approach. And then Sureshwara's Brihadaranya Bhashyam, and along with that Padmapada or Pachabadiga, later Prakasha Medhi Virana, and then Virana Prameya Sangraha, Vidyaranya, and so on, and then others. So a number of other dialectical books followed. But after some time, Ramanuja's Visitadvaita. That's the reason why Ramanuja perhaps did not clearly grasp the actual essence of avidya, as I mentioned earlier, was because Ramanuja studied Vedanta or Bhashyas from Yadav Prakasha. Yadav Prakasha did not pay much attention to the more devotional aspects of Vedanta. Surprisingly, it's very surprising that Gita Bhashya was never much subject to discussion between either Ramanuja and his follower Vedanta Desika Venkatananda, who established Ramanuja system strongly, or Sudarsana Suri, who wrote a commentary on Sri Bhashya, that is Sudha Prakashika. So what happened, in many of these debates, surprisingly, it's very surprising, they mostly focused on Sutra Bhashya. Shankara's works on devotional literature is as big as Vedanta philosophy. But that devotional element in Shankara Vedanta was later recaptured by Madhusudana Saraswati, who wrote Kudartha Deepika. So he was a staunch follower of Shankara Advaita. So the person who wrote Advaita Siddhi also wrote Kudartha Deepika, in which he recaptures the bhakti element of Shankaracharya. But mostly because of the debates between Naiyayikas like Udayanacharya and Sri Khasacharya, author of Khandakadya, very often it became too dialectical. And that was a time when Madhvacharya and his host of Dvaita, great Dvaita dialecticians like Trivikrama Pandita, Jayatirtha, Vaditirtha, and above, more importantly, Vyasatirtha all emerged. There are also this great dialectical confrontation, but during this confrontation, very often Shankara's bhakti element happened to take a back seat. So, Mimamsakas never really appear again because Mimamsa system is one disadvantage. Mimamsa actually weakened into the social fabric of Hindu society. I mean, there was so much of monopoly and special privileges of these those who follow Vedic tradition, etc. Because that's why Mimamsakas did not survive for too long. Vedanta opened the doors for everyone.
Maharaj, is Kumarila Bhatta and Prabhakara,
Yeah.
when they were there, they were not aware of Gita?
Yeah, we don't find them talking about Gita. You have to remember, Gita, Bhagavad Gita as an important textbook of Hindu tradition, Vedanta tradition. It's a contribution of Shankara. There are altogether almost 18 Gitas, maybe more, in Mahabharata and Bhagavata Purana. Uddhava Gita, all is in Bhagavata Purana. And Uttara Gita, Suddha Gita, Bhagavad Gita, Vyasa Gita, many in Mahabharata. Uttara Gita is very important. So, actually, Vyadha Gita is very philosophical, very, very profound. But Gita became so universal thanks to Shankara's magic. Swamiji says, with all his great praise for other works of Shankara, this is the most wonderful work that Shankara did. Mostly because I think Gita would not have become popular. Samasta Vedartha Sara Sangra Bhudam. So he has not forgotten the importance of Upanishads and the connection with Gita. Vedartha means truly the essence of entire Vedic literature, Upanishad literature. So without Shankara there will be no Bhagavad Gita, really. Today if Hindus have a book to talk about as their one single canon, it is Gita only, nothing else. All is important. Again the Upanishads, Vedic literature got a philosophy from it only. So that's a very important thing to remember. Okay. So I think any more questions? Okay. Okay, if you don't have, I don't know, it's 5 minutes, so I won't begin a new prakaranam, okay? Tomorrow, okay? Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu